Hi, everyone. This is Avery Peel, host of the Hope Matrix on Campus podcast. We are here to share the science, strategies, and stories for how to hope. I am the Community Hope Specialist at the Shine Hope Company, and Shine is the mnemonic for how we teach hope. So when we talk about hope, we talk about the stress skills, happiness habits, inspired actions, nourishing networks, and eliminating challenges, which are the thinking patterns that get in the way of our ability to hope. Hope is a skill. You can measure hope, you can teach hope, and you can start practicing skills to activate higher hope in your life today. And on this Hope Matrix on Campus podcast, we aim to bring in guests, experts in science, people with stories, and those that have strategies for activating hope in your life. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Hope Matrix on campus. My name is Avery Peel, and I'll be your host today. Today, we're going to be talking about studying abroad and your SHINE framework, how you can use your SHINE framework to help you go through that process. And I have two friends here with me, Miss Stella and Nicole.
Hi.
I'm so glad to be all here. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to talk about everything. I know that studying abroad is so much fun, but kind of a confusing process. So I'm excited to get this out there. And I don't know anything about it. So I'm looking forward to everything y'all have to say.
Thanks for having us. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk about it.
Do y'all want to introduce yourselves? Stella, you can go first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stella. I'm from Montana, but I study at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. With Nicole, who's also here with us. We're friends from school. And I also did work at the Shine Hope Company earlier this year and throughout the last years. So it's fun to be back. I haven't been working here since I've been studying abroad, but it's so great to be with Avery again. So thank you so much for having me.
So good to see you, Stella.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Nicole. I'm from California, but as Stella said, I also study at Georgetown in Washington, D.C. I'm in the School of Foreign Service there, so kind of like international relations focused. And I actually know Stella because we took a class together last year that was all about hope, all about reasons for hope, strategies for hope, and I loved it. So I'm really excited to be on this podcast and be a part of this project, even if just for one podcast. So thanks for having me.
That's so awesome. I didn't know that. That's amazing. I am so excited to have y'all here. So first, I just want to ask y'all, what has been your experience with studying abroad? How did you apply? Was this advertised at your school or?
Yeah,
I think go ahead, Nicole.
Oh, no, you're good. Every school, I would say it's different. So whenever you get to college, if study abroad is something you're interested in, I would talk to an advisor, maybe a teacher about it. But at Georgetown, at least, it's really advertised. I'm a campus tour guide, and it's something that we emphasize on our tours a lot because I think over 60% of the Georgetown student body goes abroad, which is a pretty high percentage for students at a school. So definitely at Georgetown, it's something that's kind of thrown in your face the second you get there. And as somebody who knew I wanted to go abroad, I was very quick to find what we call our Office of Global Education, and that's at Georgetown, kind of the center, and they're the ones who help you. So I don't know, Stella, if you want to kind of talk about how you found it, got into it, anything like that.
Yeah, so like Nicole said, studying abroad is super normal at Georgetown. I know at some schools it's much less normal. Also, there are huge financial barriers at some schools. Georgetown, I think, is pretty helpful from my experience with studying abroad. I think the tuition is similar, regardless of whether you're abroad or not. And I'm not 100% sure about how aid carries over and everything, but it's pretty accessible here. So yeah, like Nicole said, you can go through the Office of Global Education, but most schools go through some type of international program. So ours is called IES. I know some people use API. There's tons of different ones. And then depending on which school you're in, so Nicole's in the School of Foreign Service, you have to study in the language in the area where you speak the language because there's a language proficiency requirement in the School of Foreign Service. So I think if you have already met your proficiency, you could study anywhere, but most people are still working on their proficiency in junior year when it's normal to study abroad. Most Georgetown students study abroad in junior year. So when I was looking at where I wanted to study abroad, I thought about a few things. One is that I've studied Spanish. Nicole and I met for the first time in Spanish class freshman year. We had the same Spanish professor, and Nicole came late. She was like transferred into the class a couple weeks late.
We're basically trauma bonded through that Spanish class. That's why Stella and I are friends.
Oh yeah, I like tested into way too high of a level for me accidentally, and like should have dropped to a lower level, but we just suffered through, and Nicole helped me, and it was great. But I have a little bit of a lower language requirement than Nicole does because I'm just in the college, not in the School of Foreign Service. So I've already completed my language requirement at Georgetown. So I decided I wanted to study abroad in Spain. I'm studying abroad at the University of Salamanca in Salamanca, Spain, because I did want to improve my Spanish. But it was hard to pick. I mean, Georgetown has programs in pretty much any country you want to go to because it's such an international school. So I had to set goals for myself, and I decided that enhancing my Spanish language skills was like a primary goal of mine. And that's how I picked Spain. And this is the only university in Spain where you didn't have to be completely fluent in Spanish to take classes. So that's how I ended up here.
Wow, that's amazing. Spanish is hard. I took that in college too, and it's not too good.
So hard.
I should have mentioned I'm studying abroad in Madrid. And like Stella, I think like Stella, all of my classes are in Spanish, and I'm actually living with a host family here. So it's a very culturally immersive program. That was something that I wanted, but I also didn't have an option, like Stella mentioned in my program. So I guess maybe one of the first steps if you want to study abroad is, again, just reaching out to whatever your college's version of like the Office of Global Education is, and also your academic dean can help you a lot. Because a big stressor from studying abroad, I know for me as well as a lot of my friends, is that sometimes your credits don't transfer, and that's like a huge barrier to entry, especially for people who are like double majoring, people who are in more of the hard sciences, or if you just have a lot of requirements. A lot of people don't get to study abroad or choose not to study abroad because the credit transfer is so hard to figure out or so stressful. So I would recommend, if you know you want to study abroad, as soon as you can, go to your academic dean and kind of ask them, like, is this feasible? What program do I have to do? What kind of classes do I have to take abroad? Some programs are more flexible than others. So like I mentioned, I did not have a choice to not study in the language of Spanish, but that's not the case for most people. And I assume at other schools, that's not the case either. But yeah, I'd really recommend working with the advisors that you're given, because they're going to have the answers to the questions that are really might be changing your experience abroad, or what your factors of where you can go and where you can study. I love my program and I wouldn't change it, but that's definitely something that was a big stressor going into this, is that my life here, my school here, my friends here, all of them are in Spanish and everything's in Spanish. So it's been a big adjustment.
Are you completely fluent?
No, honestly, no. We have people at this program who are completely fluent. I've finished up until an advanced 2 level in our school, whatever that means. I would say I'm maybe 80% fluent, and then my biggest goal for being here is like to get that final 20% and just kind of raise my confidence, because I also know that my confidence in speaking the language here is much lower since everybody genuinely speaks the language here. So that was another big reason. Like Stella said, if you have a big language goal and you want to learn a language somewhere, highly recommend going to a country that speaks that language, because by the time you leave, you'll be fluent for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long are y'all abroad? And is it both the same length, or could you pick like a semester or less than a semester or a full year?
Yeah, so for our school, I know that most people, it's like the most normal way to go is to study for 1 full semester. We are on the semester system, so I know that schools on quarter systems are different. You might just study abroad for a quarter, which is a third of your year. A little bit of a confusing system. I don't totally understand it. So yeah, we usually study abroad for one semester. One program here is usually a semester long. You could do 2 programs, so you'd be gone for the whole year. And then Georgetown also offers like 6-week summer programs and maybe 3-week summer programs as well. So chances are your college probably offers various programs of various lengths, and you can talk to your advisors and they should know everything. And people who, my experience has been the directors of study abroad and people who are passionate about getting students studying abroad know so much about it. They're so helpful. They're more than willing to talk with you, meet with you as much as you want, because it is such an amazing experience, and it can be a huge part of your life, you know, to move to a different country for 6 months or a year or whatever it ends up being. Like Nicole said, you can get fluent in another language, experience another culture. Maybe it's your first time out of the United States or wherever you live. So people are there to help you, and I would just lean on them to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, I emailed my dean like 50 times. He probably got so tired of seeing my name, but like Stella said, lean on those people that they give you as your higher ups, as your professors, as your advisors, because they're really the ones who at the end of the day know what to do.
That's great. I know we do the same programs, like the semester long, and I went to the University of Arkansas, like the semester long and then the summer classes, but it sounds like Georgetown makes it so much easier than like anywhere else that I've ever tried to experience, because I've had a lot of friends who have studied abroad and they said that it was like the most difficult thing, but they also didn't have to do a language. So I guess that makes it easier. I don't know.
And there's also like there's a lot to think about when you're studying abroad. Nicole and I had similar hardships getting our visas. There are a ton of steps, and Georgetown does make it easy academically. Like I think we're kind of fed the idea that we're going to be studying abroad from the moment we went to school. At least I was. All my friends are abroad right now, pretty much. But there are a lot of steps. You have to get a visa for another country, which takes, it can take months. You don't have your passport during that time. You can't leave the US. You don't have that form of identification. There are tons of checks and balances. Like, it's a whole process to get there. So it is hard. And if you're a person who hates logistics, this is not for you. Probably, you have to have your ducks in a row. It's a lot of work to get over here.
Yeah. I think the study abroad experience is very romanticized, as it should be, because, you're living in another country, you're with your friends, you're probably in your late teens, early 20s, so it's like a really fun time to be somewhere else. But like Stella mentioned, at least at our school, you are pretty much fed. Like, you should go abroad, you should want to go abroad, you're going to go abroad. And I personally know a lot of friends who kind of fell into that pressure and didn't realize until after they had applied that it's not actually something that they wanted. And as much fun as it is, and as new of an experience as it is, it's also really hard. And there's lots of logistical steps, there's lots of emotional and mental and even physical stressors of like traveling and being on a new schedule and being on a new eating schedule, sleeping schedule, maybe living with a new family, like in my case. So I think it's really important to make the decision for yourself and think, is this actually something that I want to do, or is this something I'm doing because all of my friends are doing it? Because when you're trying to get a visa and you're 4 months without your passport and you don't actually want to do it, you're going to be regretting your decision. Or when you step foot in a new country, and like my mom and sister left me last week, I was in shambles. And, if this wasn't something that I actually really, really wanted to do, I think that could get to you more. So I would also advise, just because it seems like everybody's doing it, everyone's on their own journey, and this isn't an experience that you're going to miss out on if you don't think it's right for you. Like, study abroad definitely is not right for everyone, and you're going to be seeing all of these like videos and photos on like TikTok and media of people absolutely living it up, but what they're not showing you behind the scenes is them struggling to find classes, them struggling to understand a language, understand a new culture. Maybe none of their friends are with them. You're away from your family. So I definitely caution to like get caught up in the, oh, study abroad is all fun and games and rainbows. Because it's not for everyone. And if it's not for you, that's okay. You should not feel like there's something wrong if you don't want to go abroad also.
Yeah, Nicole, I feel like you just literally read my mind because I was just about to ask you the hardships of it. And I know like leaving your family must be so hard. I mean, especially, well, I guess it's different for each of you, but like Nicole, you're living with another family. You have to go through that challenge of like fitting in with that family and leaving yours behind. And Stella, are you in a dorm?
Yeah, so actually, one thing that was really difficult for me was deciding what to do. So I could decide to live either in a shared dorm with another student at a host family or in like my own dorm, which is apartment style. So it has like a kitchen and a bathroom and stuff. And I feel like on top of the pressure to study abroad, there's a huge pressure to just fully immerse yourself while you're here, which is a huge goal of mine because I want to get better at Spanish. I want to have the whole experience. But also, I'm an introvert. I'm not fluent in Spanish. I only took one full year at Georgetown through intermediate two. So I'm like a year behind Nicole in Spanish, basically. And I took that freshman year. So I had an entire year and a half between when I finished my last Spanish class and being here. And you lose a language super quickly if you're not using it. So I had to really reflect on where am I going to be the most mentally well. And that was my own space for me just because I'm not fluent in the language. I am an introvert. I knew I'd be out a lot and need time to decompress. So I did end up picking a dorm, which I'm really glad I did. But I remember sitting at home, clicking all these buttons. It feels kind of like a whole other world. You're deciding where you're going to stay, where you're going to live, where you're going to take classes, eat, sleep, like all that stuff. And I'm really glad I made the decision I did, but I was really stressed that it was the wrong one not to stay with the family. But for me, it's definitely been right to be in a dorm.
Yeah. And can you go visit friends who are staying with family? Like, do y'all ever get to see each other?
So for us, I don't know, Nicole, you can definitely like talk about yours too, because in Nicole's program, I think everyone's with host family. Here, I'd say there's like a third of people are with host family, maybe half. There's only like 13 of us here. And then the other half are in dorms. And Spanish culture is definitely different than like the culture in the US. At least here, like a home is not, it's a very personal space. It's for the family, it's for decompressing, eating your meals. But at least for the kids in my program in Salamanca, you're not allowed to bring people back to your house. So you can't have friends over. It's not really a social space. So I've never been inside of my friends here, their host families' homes, but at the dorm, I can have people in and out of my room. I can be in common spaces. You know, it's a dorm. There's a gym, there's a pool table, there's couches, which for me feels really good because I was a little bit scared of being isolated in a place where I'm not fluent in the language.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you can still have those common areas. And I mean, you can always go travel with Nicole or go
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. And Nicole, how's it been for you? I know that you guys are all sort of scattered throughout the city. Madrid's huge.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different experience if there were some people in dorms and some people in host families, but for our program at least, we couldn't choose. So everybody's in a host family, which I actually kind of like that because, you know, if one of my really good friends is in an apartment and I kept hearing all of these stories of having her friends over and like going home and completely being in your own space, like I definitely might have regretted being in a host family a little bit. It's a little bit similar to what Stella said, where I don't think we can never have people over, but it isn't like, oh, by the way, like so and so's coming, or oh, by the way, like I'm going here. So our meetup spots are pretty much restaurants and like parks and things like that. But I do like that because I think it's somewhat a more authentic way to experience like life in a city as a young adult. There are definitely pros and cons. So I don't know, Stella, if, like you're on a meal plan, but for me at least, my host family cooks me like lunch and dinner or breakfast and dinner, 2 meals a day basically. So that's really nice. I get to come home and be with a family and like sit down for dinner the same way that I would at home with my family. But sometimes obviously if you're living with a new family, you have to adjust to their time period as well. So I have a younger child in my household, and they go to bed super early. Like the house kind of closes down, I think probably like 10 or so, people are kind of starting to go to bed or at least wind down. And so as an exchange student in this country where I'm not really coming home at 10 p.m. normally, it's been a process of communication with my host mom, to kind of let her know, like, I'm eating dinner here today, I'm eating dinner not here today, I'm going to come home at this time and this time. But I do think that that teaches you a lot of lessons in communication, and it teaches you a lot of lessons in boundaries. And all of the host families in Spain have also like done this before with other students. They've been vetted by our program. So for the most part, it's a really good experience. But I definitely don't have as much freedom of like my personal space or my personal schedule as Stella. So that's definitely something to think about if you're trying to decide what to do and where to live. And even as someone who is, I would say, relatively fluent in Spanish, there are some days I just, after a whole day of going to school and I've been out of the house for 12 hours and I come back and I need to keep my brain turned on so that I can communicate with my mom and my sister and my brother. It's definitely a different experience. I don't regret it, and I would have chosen a host family again because I do think it's the best way to have an authentic experience of living somewhere and learning a new language and learning a new culture. But definitely lots of factors to think about if you are going to stay with the host family.
Definitely. And I think that different things work for different people, and
Right.
you'll both are in different situations and can talk about each one, because I feel like I've never even heard of anybody living with a host family studying abroad. Like all of my friends who have done that were in dorms. And one of my friends was in a dorm with 7 other girls. Like she did not have the option to be in like a singular room.
That's a lot.
They slept in like cots with 4 of them in one room and then like 3 in another. So
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
I guess best advice is just not to compare. Like there are pros and cons of everything. And I think if you accept your situation and find the good in it, that's probably where you'll be best.
yeah. Okay, so let's get into this framework. Let's talk about some of the stress skills that you use to help manage like your sadness of leaving your family. Like I know that's got to be hard. And maybe like if you're ever frustrated, like Stella, you could be frustrated about just like being alone or like feeling isolated. Or Nicole, like how do you handle coming home from 12 hours at school and having to stay on to continue to speak fluently? Like let's
Definitely stress skills are so important while you're abroad. I mean, this is work that I would recommend you start while you're still in your home country. You need to think about what grounds me when I'm home, what helps me unwind when I'm home, and what of those practices can I bring with me while I go abroad. So, for me, also, like, if you're an extrovert, I don't know if you probably have an easier time studying abroad. I'm definitely an introvert. Like, I love people, but I unwind by myself every day. So being out and expected to make an entire new friend group and like spend every waking minute with people sometimes, it can be hard to know how to decompress after a long day. So I definitely thought about it in the US, like over the summer before I came. What are the things that I do that make me feel like myself and unwind? So I love to be outside. Like I said, I'm from Montana. I spend a lot of time outside, hiking, walking. And when you're studying abroad, walking is a big part of your existence because you have to get to and from classes. Like I walk 20,000 steps a day here easily. Like it's crazy.
Oh my God.
So that's good for me though, because like nature walks are really good for me. I think journaling is another great thing to do while you're abroad. It's something I wanted to do just to remember the experience anyways, but it also helps me reflect on my day, unwind. I try to make time for that. Getting outside. I'm trying to think, like just taking a second to pause and just like remind yourself that everything's fine. Things can feel like they're going super fast when you're studying abroad. And I can't believe I've already been here for weeks. It feels like I just got here. So just trying to be present and get into the present moment. What do you do, Nicole?
Yeah, I feel like Stella and I on the same podcast is kind of repeating the same thing because we're such similar people.
Yeah.
I am an extrovert though, so I do recharge a lot when I'm around other people, but obviously this type of experience takes a lot of energy. So I also value my alone time and I value my recharge. I would completely echo what Stella said of you definitely should find things that work for you when you're not in a very stressful, chaotic, go environment, because those are the things that ground you at home are going to help you a ton when you're not at home. So I feel the same way where I do need some time alone to recharge. And for me, what I found is even just being able to take chunks of my day where I don't have planned to see anybody has been really helpful. So for example, if I'm here and I need to go buy some new skincare, instead of immediately texting, the big group chat or texting my friend and being like, oh, let's go shopping, like let's go run an errand together, let's go to the park together, I've been very mindful to make sure I have some activities that are just for myself. Even on the days that I want to see people, I'm kind of very mindful. Like I've seen people every single day. I haven't had a time alone, even in my room. Sometimes my family's outside and I'll go and watch TV with them. So I've just been very careful about making sure that I still have some quiet. I still have some time for myself. Thankfully, all of the host family programs here are centered around a park. It's beautiful. It's like the Central Park-esque of Madrid, I would say. And like Stella, I love connecting with nature. I love walking. I love just like putting in music and going nowhere and just like exploring. So the other day, like I went on a run in the park and I made sure that that was something that I did by myself. Even though I know all of my friends would have done it with me and I would have had a good time doing it with them, I like made sure that I did it alone, because I think it's really important if you're in a new environment and your body is constantly taking in new things, and at least for me as well, like literally a new language, same for Stella, you need to give yourself time to process. And study abroad goes so fast and every day you have something. So I think it's really important that you give yourself a little bit of quiet, just for your body, just for your mind, like for your soul to catch up. Because if you're go, and then like 4 months down the line, you're like, I haven't processed any of this. I haven't been in the present moment. You're either going to be super stressed out, super sad, or feel like you just wasted your abroad. So yeah, I guess same thing as Stella, like journaling, mindfulness, whatever it is you do that's time with yourself, I think is something that you should just continue when you're here.
That's great. I think that going on walks is something that everybody is like, this is my stress skill. Like, this is what I do. I just go outside and go on a walk, because truly, like, just being in the sun, that vitamin D just like relieves all of the weight off your shoulders. It's so amazing.
Yeah. And also, I just remembered like a couple things I would add. One is finding things like to relieve your stress that connect you back with home. Like sometimes on a walk, I'll listen to a podcast in English that I've been listening to for years, or like music I know I like, just as a break in my day, something familiar. And also in terms of rest, like the sleep schedule is very different here. People stay out so late, like
They don't here.
literally 6 a.m. They don't sleep. And then I have class at 9 a.m. every morning. So I have been trying to be mindful of my sleep schedule, but a siesta, which means nap in Spanish, is built into the day here every day. So like here in Salamanca, businesses close between like 1 and 4 or like 2 and 6 or something. And there aren't classes and you actually have time to rest in the middle of the day. So napping is huge, and just taking advantage of that time has been really great since we don't sleep for 8 hours here.
That is actually so cool to hear, because I feel like here it is like bad to take a nap. Like if you take a nap, you're wasting the day.
Yeah. Totally different culture here. Totally different.
Yeah. I think I need to move to Spain.
I don't know how it is in Madrid, because Madrid is much bigger. Like Salamanca is big, but it's not huge.
I was going to say, I've only been here for a week, but I feel a little lied to because I haven't had a siesta, and I was expecting to have that.
No, we siesta every day here, seriously.
Yeah, I think it really just depends on your schedule. The rest of the Madrid world, does shut down between those hours, and they come home and they eat lunch with their family. So I've been talking to my host family, and the schedule for like actual people who live here is normally you go to school, you go to work, maybe like 9 to 1, and then you leave your school, you leave your work, you come back, have lunch with your family from like 1 to 3, and then you go back and keep working from 3 to 8. So instead of like a 9 to 5, it's like a 9 to 12, take a 1 to 3 break, then it's like a 3 to 7, 3 to 6, 3 to 8, depending on your job. That is not my schedule. I have classes pretty much all day, but it's only 3 days a week, which is really nice. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm allowed to have my siesta. The culture itself definitely is revolved around rest and time with your family and time with your friends and food. So that's something along the same lines of like finding something that reminds you of home. I have a lot of comfort foods. And at home, if I'm having a bad day, like my meal is kind of what can turn my day around. I'm a huge foodie. So like yesterday, I was kind of feeling down and I had just walked in the park and I was listening to not like the happiest music. So of course my brain was like, oh, and I found a taqueria and I went and I got tacos because tacos are like a very big comfort food to me. And that just completely made my day. So if you have something like that that can just like turn your day around, I would say try to find those things in whatever new city you're in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, speaking of siestas and tacos, those are things that actually make me so happy. I am such a nap girl and I'm such a taco girl. I'm with you there, Nicole. So, let's talk about some of your happiness habits. I know that you can build these happiness habits that like feed your happiness when you're at home, but have you had to create new ones now that you're abroad, or can you transfer those? What happiness habits are y'all using now?
Nicole, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I would say it's similar to your stress skills. Definitely try to identify any ones you can carry over and bring them. For me, gratitude is huge. Like I practice gratitude every day, whether I'm in the US or abroad. Super important, brings me back into the moment. But another huge one for me is exercising. I love to go to the gym and it's kind of a different culture here. Like going to the gym isn't as common. The gym here isn't as fully equipped as the ones in the US. I know at Georgetown we have this giant gym with like a bunch of machines. I know we always wish there could be more, but there are like 20 treadmills. Here there's one. So it's just a different vibe. And I feel like what's been making me the most happy is just finding gratitude for what is working. Like maybe I don't get to lift weights as much as I'd like to, but I'm walking throughout a city all day and like that's releasing similar endorphins. Just gratitude for like
exercise.
yeah, and like nutrition's different here too. Like I know that we talk about like exercise and nutrition being a happiness habit. And here you eat like a really small breakfast and then a giant lunch and then a really small dinner. Like that's kind of lunch is the biggest meal of the day, which has been weird. I know that everyone in my program has like been adjusting and stuff, but just trying to be kind of like tuned into how that is positive, like just trying to make everything as positive as possible. And like Nicole said, like incorporating stuff that I know I like where I can. Also wonder and awe, like being in a new country in this beautiful place with these historic buildings. It ties into gratitude, but just taking a moment to take it all in every day, this gorgeous place that we're in, and knowing that we won't be here forever is just a reminder to find even more wonder and awe every time that I walk around the city.
Yeah, that is so amazing. I know that like it would be hard to just like be grateful for what you have, and everybody always needs more. So I'm glad that you said that because it's truly inspiring to hear you say, like, I understand that back in the US, like, oh, we always want more. We always like need more treadmills or need a bigger gym. But here we're just like grateful for all that we have. That's really great to hear. What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, definitely there are going to be some things that are realistic to transfer over. Like I really like to do yoga. So I found a local yoga studio and like I signed up to do that. But obviously there are going to be some tangible things that you just can't transfer over. Like you don't have the same, I don't know, shops here for the most part. If you have like a shop at home you like to go to, obviously you don't have the same friend group here. So I think a lot of the times people rely on the people around them. to lift them up. And so obviously if you're in a program without those people, like that's not logistically something that can transfer. But like Stella said, you can always transfer your mindset, which I think is something to remember. And for me, I really like to try to live with like radical acceptance. So however something is turning up, I try to accept it and be grateful for it and like shift my perspective so that it's something positive. Before coming here, I read a quote that's like, it's never going to be as easy as you hope it is, but it's also never going to be as hard as you fear that it's going to be. So not everything has been perfect here. Not everything has been smooth sailing, but whatever has come, I've just tried to radically accept it, and just really always have some sort of positive twist. Even if I'm changing classes, well, now I get to have a class with a new friend. Even if, for example, like one of my credits that I really needed isn't going to transfer, now I get to take another cool class at Georgetown. And it is really important also to acknowledge if you're not feeling positive. Like, obviously, you're not going to feel positive all the time. And this is a terrifying experience. I would be lying to you if I said, like, I'm not scared some days to go order coffee in Spanish. But I think something that I've also tried to embody, like a happiness, not even habit, but mindset, is kind of do it scared. Of I don't need to feel fearless here, but even if I am afraid, I'm still going to push myself to do something. So I think it's also important to save space for the negative emotions, because you're going to have them. You're going to be sad that your friends aren't here. You're going to be scared to meet new people, to join new classes. You're going to be anxious, maybe like to live with a family if that's your experience. And I think there's a lot of value in not just pushing those feelings down, like actually letting yourself have those feelings, but continuing to do the things that are going to make you happy, even if you are feeling a little negative. So I really like do it scared. I also really like that that motto for study abroad.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I know I would be terrified, so I totally understand. And I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I feel like this leads right into our inspired actions, which these are all like goals. Like, do you set goals? Do you have specific strategies that help you reach your goal? And I feel like what you were just talking about, like you're saying, like you do it scared, because even ordering coffee in Spanish in a language that you are maybe not quite fluent in yet is nerve-wracking. And so, like, how do you get to where you want to be? Like, did you set a goal for that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, my biggest overall goal, like I mentioned, is just like to be completely fluent and completely immersed in the culture here. So yeah, that's always a nice reminder. Like especially this week when classes started and I couldn't understand all of my professors completely, and immediately like I want to devolve into panic. I have to be like, okay, why am I here? I'm here to learn Spanish. Me not understanding my professors is part of that process, and it'll help calm me down a little bit. So I think it's really important to set these kinds of goals beforehand so that when inevitably you're anxious, you're nervous, you're sad, you kind of have this goal that you set before this entire experience that you can fall back on. And maybe you are obviously going to have new goals as well, but I think it's been a nice reminder to remind myself, like, why am I here? Why did I decide to come here? What's keeping me grounded? And what do I want to get out of this experience? And so anytime I do kind of feel myself like, ooh, shaky, spiraling, I can fall back on the main purposes for why I put myself in an experience to feel that way. Like I went into this knowing I was going to sit in class freaking out that I didn't know my professors, knowing that I was going to be living with strangers. Like I knew all of that. And before I came here, I wanted that. I wanted that discomfort to push myself to grow. So now when I am uncomfortable, I have to kind of remind myself, like, this is why I'm here. I'm here to be uncomfortable and I'm here to grow. So obviously I'm going to be uncomfortable while I'm growing.
Yeah. So this is like your main goal, like your overall long-term goal. Have you set any like micro goals to help you get there, or picked any specific strategies that help you learn Spanish better?
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't speak, even though my host family speaks English, I don't speak to them in English. I've only been texting my friends in Spanish, and I've been trying to like wean out Google Translate slowly when people send me things. And I also have like lots of micro goals for the people in my program. So I'm trying to get lunch or dinner with like a one-on-one with someone in my program, someone I wouldn't normally talk to, so that I can get to know them more. And, I'm not going to meet every single micro goal I set, but I do have lots of little goals in place. And when I am able to accomplish them, like it continues pushing me forward. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. Stella, do you have anything to add on your goals?
I think those are such great goals, Nicole. I love that. Nicole is like such a social butterfly. She's so welcoming and is always doing something, so that doesn't surprise me at all. That's really sweet. But I think one thing that's great is your school will likely have some kind of program coordinator wherever you are. So for us, we have this woman who's the director here. She has an office here. Every school's different, but you're probably not going to a country where no one from your college is affiliated with something. And she's great, and she's helped us just set goals and check in. I think checking in on your goals is a huge part of getting where you want to be and achieving what you want to, and also to recognize when your goals are too big. So, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, like, yes, one of my huge goals is to immerse myself. And also, my goals are to enjoy my time here and to maintain my mental health. So, for me, that meant picking this living situation instead of a host family, whereas Nicole's goals were more aligned with like living in a host family. So I think that just figuring out where you need to re-goal or make room for things that don't feel like perfectly on track is super important. So checking in with your coordinators, great. Checking in with your friends. I think, yeah, immersing yourself as much as you can, like trying to take little steps, not speak as much or not like as much English, speak more Spanish. I'm trying to think of other big goals of mine while I'm here. I think just, yeah, like assuming the best intention of everyone around me, making goals to just make space for myself. Like, I think depending on the school you're at, sometimes there's a lot of academic pressure. Like Georgetown, it can be kind of a pressure cooker sometimes. We're all pretty hard on ourselves, and like grades are huge. Whereas here, when I'm studying abroad, my classes are all pass fail basically. So while they'll still show up on my transcript, they don't affect my GPA. And what that's meant for me is making a goal to be less concerned with my grades and more concerned with pushing myself and just doing the best I can in classes and enjoying myself, instead of being hyper fixated on taking classes where I know I can get a Spanish equivalent of like an A or a B, which Spanish stuff is out of 10. I only have to get a 5 out of 10 to pass the class and get the credit I need. So allowing myself to not obsess over how I'm doing, if I'm good enough, falling into imposter syndrome, like I'm not really good enough to be in this class, or this is too high of a level for me, I should drop down. Just letting myself think, okay, realistically, I can get a 5 out of 10 on this. I'm going to let myself struggle. I'm not going to ace everything. And just like making space for that has been huge for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's so great. And I feel like, which I've never studied abroad, but I feel like studying abroad is really all about immersing yourself in the culture and learning about a new culture. And that is so important in life. And I know that grades are also very, very important. But I think that it is great that y'all have a pass fail program so that you don't have to worry as much about school.
No, it's
And
really nice, honestly.
grades
yeah,
are such a big part of everybody's life, and it's such a big stressor that I think that that is the most perfect thing I've ever heard.
I think a lot of people also take study abroad as kind of like a recharge, because I think for the most part it is juniors that go abroad. So at that point you've been at your school for 2 years. You've probably been, like grinding away academically for the past 2 years. So definitely people, at least at Georgetown, there's a big mentality of study abroad is not a time to academically immerse yourself. It's kind of a time to de-stress from the past 2 years and also prep yourself for, like the next year and a half. I remember I was on a seminar as a freshman talking to seniors, and like a question that I asked was, and these were very like high achieving people, like always had internships, always had really good grades. And I asked, I was like, how do you not get, like, what did you do to not get burnt out? because I was a freshman and I was already feeling burnt out. And multiple of them said, go abroad, give yourself half a year where, like Stella said, you're not pressure cooking yourself to have straight A's, have a job, have an internship, whatever it might be. So that's something I've kind of kept in mind here as well, as a lot of people do take this as a recharge period. So yeah, if I get 5s in all my classes, that's great. I'm not looking for a 10 out of 10. I'm here. Ideally more than 5, but it's the same.
We're still passing, so
right. It's still passing. 5s across the board. Perfect. I'm great with that.
Does it come back on your transcript like as a 5 out of 10, or does it come back as just pass?
Honestly, I don't know. I know it's, again, talk to your academic dean. You don't want to give the wrong advice. Some programs, it does matter more. So like, for example, if I want to apply to a Fulbright research program and I want to come back to Spain, obviously they're going to ask me like, what were your grades when you were in Spain? So I know there are some like caveats, same as med school might look, law school might look. So again, talk to your academic dean. Don't get that info from Stella and I on this podcast. But for the most part, it doesn't factor into your GPA for us. So it won't affect anything important. It won't be the reason why I get a job or don't get a job, or, like graduate college or don't graduate college. Take that on a case-to-case basis. But for us,
that's amazing. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that, because the literally first thing I thought about was like, I would so get a 5 on everything and just pass. And then if I came back and it was like a 50% of my transcript, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the Spanish grading scale is totally different. So like a 5 out of 10 is probably like a C in the US. I don't know exactly, but I've honestly been trying not to focus on it that much. And a huge goal of mine was to decompress here. So that means not obsessing over what this is going to mean like on my transcript. As long as I know I can pass my classes, that's all I need to do. And like not
probably like stressing y'all out right now.
Like, oh no, it's fine. And like not carrying over summer internships, even though I love them. Just like letting myself really not be accountable to a lot of like pre-professional stuff here. And actually that even carries over into travel while I'm here. So my goal is to recharge and enjoy Salamanca. I picked this place because I love it. It's a gorgeous city and I love everyone here. So that means that I'm not going to be leaving every single weekend, even though it's easy here. Like round trip flights are 40, 50 euros to some of the most beautiful places. Giving myself time to spend weekends in the city, sleep enough, eat well, meet the people in my program. It has been a goal of mine, even though like some people decide that their goal is to see all of Europe, and you can also do that while you're here. But for me and my recharge, that means not leaving every single weekend.
Yeah, I guess another really big goal, we had a seminar in our orientation, just about like mental wellness while abroad. And I really like how the woman there framed it. She said, it's important to honor yourself while abroad. So, you're with a big group of people. It will be really easy to stay out until 5 a.m. every night, like Stella said, to travel every single weekend if you, have those financial means or like the physical, mental means to do so. And if you don't check in with yourself repeatedly, you're going to get carried away. And so another big goal I have for myself is to honor myself. Like if I don't have enough energy, I'm not going to go out with my friends. If I feel like I'm not staying enough with my family or like actually exploring Spain, I'm not going to leave every single weekend to go somewhere. So I do think this process is a lot of checking in on yourself. And that takes effort. Like that takes a conscious effort. It's really easy to let go of that. And I'm sure at one point in your time in this program, I'm gonna have to take a step back and say, whoa, I haven't been checking in. Gotta reevaluate. But I think that's a goal everyone should have, regardless of whether that looks like leaving every weekend or never leaving, or going out every night or never going out. I think it's very, very important to know yourself before you come abroad, so that you can honor yourself while you're here and make sure you're doing what's best for you and, what you want out of the experience.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And I think that honoring yourself is really, really, really important, especially like Stella said, like she needs to have that recharge time. And I'm the same way. I need to recharge by myself. And so that was one of my biggest things. Like, I never wanted to study abroad because all of my friends that did it were going, going, going. And I was like, I can't do that because I don't have enough energy. But I'm really glad that you said that. And if you ever need a reminder, you can just come back and listen to yourself.
Me playing this in a month from now, like, oh yeah, gonna do that.
It's hard. It's so easy to say it, and then it's like, even tonight, let's bring it really present. Everyone's going out because it's like Friday night, and we have like a trip on Sunday, and it's like, okay, Friday night we can recharge Saturday. But I've been sick this week, and like, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling tonight, and if I'm not feeling good, like, I'm not going to go out. But it's hard here because also the culture here is like party culture. It's like, go to the club, go get drinks. Like, we're all legal here. You're not necessarily legal in the US when you study abroad. So you just have to be super intentional, like Nicole said, and it is much easier said than done.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people probably have FOMO so bad. I would.
Mm-hmm.
And
my friends did a day trip today, and within 5 minutes, I like almost booked a train, and then I literally had to stop myself and be like, wait, I'm going to this exact same place next week. Why would I go today? But they're all there now, and I would be lying if I said, I wasn't like hearing about it, seeing the things, and a little sad that I'm not there. So it's definitely like comes with its emotional baggage.
Well, with that being said, let's talk about some of your nourishing networks, because I know that y'all have said that a lot of people from Georgetown study abroad. Like you said, like 60%, which is just crazy. I've never heard a number that high.
It's fake here.
So do y'all have a lot of your same friends that you had back at school, or are you like building a whole new network of people? Like, who have you found to be the people that you go to when you need something, or when you're sad, or when you need to talk?
Nicole,
I don't know how. Oh yeah, no, wait. Do you want me to start?
I'm just asking you if you want time to think or if you want to start.
Oh, I can start.
Okay.
Every program is really different. So there are some programs with 5 people. There are some programs with 80 people. I think that's also something to keep in mind when you're deciding where to go. Not that the people should be your biggest factor. You should go where you want to go. But something I kept in mind was I knew that I didn't want a semester constantly around Georgetown people, because at the end of the day, that's what college is for 3.5 years minus abroad. So I think it's important to go into it knowing whether you're somebody who wants to have their traditional nourishing network, or somebody who's okay stepping outside of it. And that's a decision that, everyone kind of has to make for themselves. In my program, we have 30 people from Georgetown, which is bigger than normal. So I went into this thinking I was going to be in a 10-person program. And then I actually had 30 or so, which isn't huge, but it is a good number. I don't have many of the same people that I hang out with at Georgetown, I would say. So yeah, a lot of it has been kind of figuring out new social dynamics, bonding with people who I might have known at school, but not known super closely. And then obviously meeting people who I've never seen in my entire life around campus. So I think it's a very mindful and intentional mix of creating new connections here, but also trying not to lose the old networks that really helped you. So, I've been, as best as I can, texting those friends who I do hang out with all the time back at school, like FaceTiming friends, FaceTiming my boyfriend who's also studying abroad. I have a lot of friends back at Georgetown still, and so I've been trying to block out times where we're on enough of the same time zone, like they're noon and like my night, so that we can FaceTime. But yeah, no, for me at least, it has been pretty much a new network in the place that I am in. And so again, kind of something, lots of factors to consider, but something to consider, if you want to go with your friends, that's, totally fine. Like, book the same place as your friends. But if you are someone who wants something different, then maybe don't go to the same place as your best friend and live in the same dorm room and take the same classes, you know. So I think it's just, again, like very much so knowing yourself and knowing what network you want to have, and if you are willing to build new ones or if you want to stay with the old ones, which is totally fine.
Yeah, I would echo that. My program's 13 people, but only 3 of us are in the particular part of the program that I'm in, which is basically for students who are not fluent in the language yet. So I'm not directly enrolled in the university here. I'm in classes with only international students. So we are only speaking Spanish, but the professors know that we don't have a full understanding of the language. I would say I've been really intentional about getting to know people here. I literally didn't know anyone who was here before, so it's been a huge leap, but you make friends super fast. It's like when you first go to college. It's like trauma bonding slightly. And also, this is the same advice I would give someone who's just going to college in general the first time, is call home. Just call home. Like, and not everyone has the same relationship with their family, but whoever is your family, your chosen family to you. I think I used to think, I remember freshman year, I was like, if I call home, I'm just going to be more sad and homesick. And it's just not true. Like, you need to call your people. So I've been trying to call my family as much as I can. Or like set aside intentional time, because we have an 8-hour time difference. So it takes intentional work to make a phone call. And then also in terms of my friends from Georgetown, it's like, yeah, you want to recognize the support that these people have given you for years and that you have like a mutual relationship with and you would do anything for. And also you don't want to be on your phone all the time. So for me, booking a trip halfway through study abroad where I'm going to be with my core people from Georgetown, like, or at least some of them, like we have a little friend group, was huge. And just knowing that I get to see them like next month is so sweet and helpful, so that I can kind of unplug to a certain extent, a little bit, so that I'm not feeling like I have to be on FaceTime all the time, but trying to stay on top of texts. And then I guess having a lot of empathy and compassion for the people around you when you're studying abroad. You land, you're so jet lagged. No one has slept in 24 hours. And then I had to get on a train. So I had like 3 legs and then a train and then a taxi and then a walk. And like, you haven't slept, you haven't eaten, everyone's jet lagged. Just be nice to each other and to yourself, and just recognize that everyone experiences like study abroad differently. And I feel lucky. I've had a pretty good time adjusting. I'm really enjoying being here. But when someone's off or having a hard day, just always assuming that they have the best intentions has been good for me, I think. And also just with myself, giving myself a little bit of extra grace when I'm not used to not sleeping like this, and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure that it's really hard. So have y'all met any people outside of your school? Like, are there people outside of Georgetown that you can take classes with, or just like me outside of classes?
Yeah, in my program, we can only take 1 to 2 classes that are only with international students, and then the rest, 3 or 4 of our classes are with the Spaniards here. And I do have some classes where, you know, a lot of Georgetown students signed up for the same one, but I also intentionally chose some classes where I'm like literally the only international student, the only American, the only non-Spaniard. And my program coordinator, we kind of have a running joke going. She was telling us at the beginning that if we wanted to make Spanish friends, if we wanted to be in a Spanish clique, is what she said, we like had to, you know, like if you were going into a Spanish class with only Spaniards and there's 20 American students in it, they're not going to talk to you and you're not going to talk to them. You know, like they're going to stick with their friends and you're going to stick with your friend. But for my one class that I have where I'm literally the only American in it, I've already made friends with 2 freshmen who it's also their first day in college. And, you know, I like always joke with my friends. I'm like, guys, I have my clique. And it's very exciting to meet like the people here. So whenever someone here like makes a new Spanish friend or is in a class with only Spaniards, we're like texting each other like, we made a clique. Like, it's very exciting. But I would say you do have to go out of your way. So, you know, if that's not something that you prioritize, then I would say it's probably a lot easier and more comfortable to stick with the people in our program. But for me, because I really want to immerse myself, like, another goal I have for myself was to have one Spanish friend at the end, like one real friendship with somebody here where I can see them outside of school. Like it's not just a classroom maybe setting. So I made sure based off of that goal that I did take a class where I didn't know anybody. And, the first day I was like, oh, I'm an international student. I don't really know what we're doing. And now me and these two freshmen are in a group project. So I'm going to be interacting with them throughout the year. But I think it's harder than you expect to make non-international student, non-American friends, if that makes sense. So I don't know how it is in other programs, but in our program, even though we're living with a host family, even though we're taking our classes in Spanish, even though our classes are with Spaniards for the most part, you have to go out of your way to make a clique, like to make a friend. So that's something I think to be mindful of and something to have realistic expectations of, you are a foreigner, you're on a different schedule than them, you're probably traveling on the weekends somewhat when they're at home with their friends and family. So I think you have to be really, really realistic with your expectations of you're probably not going to have like the perfect movie friend group with, like wherever you are, but you can obviously make friends, but you have to put effort into that. You have to go out of your way to do that. And you kind of have to put yourself out there, which is scary, which is why I always remind myself, do it scared. Like every time I speak in my classes, my heart's like pounding. I'm like, oh my God, they know I'm not from here. Like I'm such a fraud. I'm such a foreigner, but they're so nice and like they want to get to know you too. But you can't just stick to the Americans or just the international students because you're never going to make friends that way who aren't in that program. So
yeah, and I can see how that would be difficult because there are so many barriers, especially the language barrier.
oh, that's
And I guess y'all are like starting to learn like all of this like slang words now, like because you don't get taught those in class, but now that y'all are in Spain, like you're gonna be learning like a whole different type of Spanish. Like that's exciting.
It's very exciting, but you also have to be accustomed to rejection. Like some people here just are not going to want to be your best friend if you're an international student, and that's okay. And some people are going to be really nice and really accepting. I also know people who got laughed at their first day of class when they introduced themselves.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's
like professors here, the culture, especially in Salamanca, like Spain's big, like it changes everywhere, but it's a very direct culture. So like professors here are very different than my professors in the US. They're super direct. They make fun of people, but it's like lighthearted. Like I don't know. You just have to put your guard down a little bit and be like, this is a whole different culture. I have one professor who like made a kid beg on their knees to come into class because he was late. But like she's funny. And like I don't know, being an international student, you're just gonna be the butt of some jokes, and it's kind of funny, and you just have to laugh along with people. You can bring those stories back to dinner with your U.S. friends. What happened today? This is so embarrassing.
I would just get so butthurt. I would just cry. Okay, so let's talk about actually speaking of all of the challenges and getting butthurt. How are we going to eliminate challenges? How do y'all get rid of the negative thoughts that some of those things might cause? Like, I know, like, it's a different culture and, like, it's lighthearted and it's fun, but, like, we might not take it the same way that they intend for us to. And, like, I know that, like you said, your professors aren't, like, trying to be mean. Like, they're just, like, being funny. But how do y'all control, like, the negative thoughts? How do y'all prevent rumination?
Yeah. I feel like you have to have goals for yourself that you can fall back on, like Nicole said. Like when things feel overwhelming and scary, when I start being a perfectionist, like I'm naturally pretty perfectionistic and I can be like, oh, I'm not doing well enough. Like I'm not studying enough, because that's also what I'm used to in the US. I'm used to studying all day. To let go of that, you have to have affirmations that are rooted in your goals. So it's like, my goal is to immerse myself. My goal is to get out into the city every day. That means that I'm not going to be in my dorm studying. So I have to let go of that. Or like when I feel like things are out of my control, and like that's the point of being here. Like I'm in a space where things are happening that I'm not used to, and that's good for me. So I think that like coming back to your intentions for your experience is really helpful. And then just like getting in the present, like when I'm ruminating, like, oh, I'm doing this wrong, or like this is so hard, or something like that, just taking a deep breath and being like, I'm with myself wherever I go. I'm fine. Like, this is a short amount of time. I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah, that's great. Nicole, do you have any input?
Yeah, completely agree with everything Stella said. I think I kind of fall back on some of the advice that I gave at the very beginning of that you need to know that you want this experience and that you're doing this experience for yourself and not anybody else, because personally that's something that's really, really easy for me to fall back on. You know, if I get laughed at in class, thankfully has not happened to me. If I couldn't take that. But, you know, if something like that happens, if you take the wrong public transportation, or, you know, like aren't sleeping enough, aren't eating enough, like all of these challenges that we've kind of touched on, for me, it's really easy to shift my perspective, and along with what I've mentioned, kind of like doing it scared, having radical acceptance, just reminding myself that this is something that, you know, like that I really wanted. Like a year ago when I was submitting my application to come here, I would have done anything for them to accept me. And I like the phrase kind of like you're living your answered prayers without knowing it. And regardless of like what your belief system is, you know, like when you're abroad, if this is something you really wanted for yourself, like you're in such a cool experience. You're literally having an experience that you probably basically like prayed for when you were applying, when you were thinking about it, when you were like getting all of the logistics ready. So that's something that's been pretty easy for me to fall back on when I'm not maybe like in the best mindset here, or when I'm ruminating. I can just quickly remind myself, like Stella said, like really be grateful of like, yeah, I'm having all of these challenges, but you know, I would have given anything to be here a year ago. Like I really, really wanted this, and I knew that this is what came with it. Which is why I highly recommend that, again, you have to be here for yourself and nobody else. Because if you're not here having this experience for yourself, it's going to be a lot easier for you to fall into your negative thoughts, and it's going to be a lot harder for you to pull yourself out of that rumination. So, like Stella said, like just knowing that you have yourself, knowing that this is an experience that's like about growth and it's about change and it's about putting yourself out there, and making sure that that's something you're okay with and something that you want, so that when you are in this new country, away from your friends, maybe in a new language, maybe like living with strangers, you can just take a step back and say like, this is hard, but I can do hard things, and this is a hard thing that I wanted for myself. So now I'm gonna do it. But yeah, that's why I really caution like not just coming abroad because everybody does it, or not just coming abroad because it's something that you should want to do, quote unquote, but actually having an abroad experience because you want it for yourself.
Yeah. Also, like one more thing I would add is I think that comparison is a huge thief of joy when you're abroad, because everyone's experience is so different. So I have friends that are studying like only with American friends in a country they don't speak the language. That's not their goal. They're there to have fun and party and be with their friends. And then I have friends who are like fully immersed, like Nicole. Like Nicole's so immersed. She's living with a family, like taking classes only in Spanish with other Spaniards. So as much as you can, just like allowing yourself to have your own individual experience and not compare like, oh, this person has 3 Spanish friends and I have 1, or I have none, or like, you know what I mean? You have to make your own goals. And then also social media is so hard when you're studying abroad, because people love to post. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't or that you shouldn't if you don't want to, but just having hard boundaries with yourself. Like if I'm stressed out, I'm not going on social media to see that all my friends who are abroad have gone on 3 trips this week, because like maybe that's not my goal, you know, or like my friends at home, like Georgetown is going to have homecoming, I don't know, like next weekend or something. Or this, I don't know, coming up, and like that's so fun, and I'm gonna be sad that I'm not there. So I can be happy for them, but looking at all their pictures is probably not gonna be good for me. So like getting off Instagram, whatever works for you.
Yeah. That's a really good thing to remember, because I know like FOMO can be the worst part, and like it can make you feel like bad in any situation you're in. Even if you're like the one doing the more exciting thing, if you look back and you're like, oh, well, my friends are back there, then
Yeah.
it can be like so challenging and hard. And like that's definitely something that I would sit here and worry about. And I know like I have a friend that moved to Dallas post grad, and she is like going out and doing so many fun things every weekend. And she's working and she's in grad school. And I'm like, how is she having so much fun and doing all these amazing things and like going out and meeting new people? And I just like have FOMO a little bit. But I know that these are challenges that we have to go through. And like these are things that we can like be intentional and put ourselves in these positions that we want to be in. And I am so, so excited for y'all. I know that y'all just started your journey studying abroad. And I know that y'all are going to do amazing things. And I feel so grateful to have gotten to talk to y'all. Thank you so much for spending your time talking to me. I know this actually took like an hour and a half.
No, thank you so much. It's fun.
For having
It's fun to see you, Nicole. I've missed you. Usually we live like right down the street from each other at school, so this is weird to me.
Stella and I are planning a trip together. Speaking of seeing friends, seeing your network.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for letting us sit here and talk your ear off for the past hour and a half about.
Oh my gosh, no, I loved it. I know nothing about study abroad, so this has like been so insightful for me too.
thank you so much. It's actually like a great period of reflection. It's like an hour and a half of reflection on our experience and our goals. So what could be better?
And if y'all ever need the reminder, you can just come back and watch it whenever you want.
So great. Yeah,
If I ever get laughed at in class, I'm coming back to this podcast.
definitely do.
That's horrible. I can't believe people laugh at each other in class. I would cry in class.
It was definitely lighthearted. Like my friend was introducing herself and started laughing, so they all started laughing. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. I'm so excited to have y'all, and I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you all for listening to the Hope Matrix on Campus podcast. I hope to have provided you with actionable insights and a framework that you can use to start activating higher hope in your life today. And don't forget that hope is measurable and teachable. This program is designed to assist you in learning about hope, but it should not be used for medical advice, counseling, or other health-related services. I, Fred, the Shine Hope Company, and myself, Avery Peel, do not endorse or provide any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical doctor. The information provided here should not be used for the diagnosis or treatment of any medical condition and cannot be substituted for the advice of physicians, licensed professionals, or therapists who are familiar with your specific situation. Consult a licensed medical professional or call 911 if you're in need of immediate assistance, and be sure to know the crisis hotline 988 if you are in need of support. We are better with hope. Please feel free to check out theshinehopecompany.com, where we list all of our resources around how to hope. We have a lot of free programs for how to hope, including the 5-day challenge, our hope infographic with a lot of skills that showcase how to hope, and articles of how to incorporate hope in your life. We have the Hope Beat Weekly, which is a weekly newsletter that shares strategies for hope. We have my Shine Hope story template, so you can write your own Shine Hope story today. Also, my Shine Hope hero, so we can share what our heroes are doing to activate hope in our lives. And this is especially good with youth, so they can start looking up to people that have overcome similar challenges to them and seeing how these heroes use the Shine Hope framework. We have a Hopeful Minds for Teens program and Hopeful Minds Overview Educator Guides. We have a new evidence-based college course so you can activate hope on the college campus. There are programs in the workspace, overview courses, 90-minute courses for learning the what, why, and how to hope. What I want you to know about hope is it's a skill you've got to practice to become more hopeful. It's easy to fall into despair and helplessness when we deal with challenges in life, and it takes intentional work and practice to get to hope. And yet it is always possible. So no matter what life brings, keep shining hope. Thanks so much for listening and have an awesome day.